Welcome to Feminine Roadmap Podcast. I'm your host, Gina Farrar. Each week, I bring you an inspiring conversation to help you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife so that you can not only survive, but thrive in your second half. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here, and today we are going to be talking about midlife challenges, midlife crisis, the fact that we're human and we all face challenges and we need to learn to know how to survive, to develop those coping skills, because where we are is where we're supposed to be now, and now we get to figure out how to navigate the journey that is ahead. And today, to share this conversation with me, I have Dr. Emeka Anyiam. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's the author of Embracing Life, Surviving the Struggle by Learning to Embrace the Experience. Dr. Emeka, thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. Now, before we get started, I would love to invite you to share a little bit about your story and what it is that led you to be interested in this specific topic, navigating, the struggle in our lives.
Yes, I am originally from Nigeria. I came here in 1991. I decided to go to school to get my counseling degree at Montclair State University. I finished my bachelor's there, then went to Liberty University. So when I got married in 2000, I decided to become a minister. And for a very, very brief period of time, I served at many churches that I was attending in Edgewater, Florida. So I decided to attend my doctorate degree in ministry from Colorado Theological Seminary. But since I'm licensed in the state of Florida as a marriage and family counselor, I supervise registered mental health counselors and also marriage and family interns for, to help them get their licensure in the state of Florida. I also have adoption competency adoption certification to help, because some of our referrals are coming from the state. So, and most places are in the process of their children in foster care are in the process of being adopted. So, and I noticed I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I noticed that there is a need, a very, very, very mild resources people have out there to get the help they need in order to survive each struggle. Because in many cases, some of us as human beings, we don't feel like we were supposed to be having those feelings. We don't feel like we were supposed to be having these problems. And when those storms are occurring, we tend to panic. And by the time you know it, we are committed. And a lot of bad things happen. So through my counseling, through the years, I've thought about the fact that I really want to help people who cannot reach me. I really want to help them. And one way I could do that was to write a book. So last April, I decided that I would take on this journey. And it's not about making money or anything like that, but it's about communicating a message that they are lovable and capable, and whatever they're going through, they could overcome it. I believe strongly that if somebody has the capability of making wrong choices when he or she is facing a challenge or two, that person is also capable of making the right choices. So it depends on how much resources you have out there. So it hurts me so much to see or to notice that a lot of people are going through a lot of challenges and they don't know what to do. They are helpless, they are hopeless, and they tend to live in that victim mentality. So I wrote the book in order to help readers become the best version of themselves by learning to implement proper steps in order to resolve their issues. So that's where I came from.
So you talked about people being hopeless and helpless.
Yes.
So your clientele, do you find that you have kind of a consistent pattern in behaviors or a consistent pattern in decision making that helps you kind of identify the tools that you wrote in this book?
Yes, absolutely. While some clients are referred, some of them are self-referred, some of them are referred by the state, some of them are just from DJ, juvenile detention, and all kinds of places. And what I noticed, because when I watch a client or observe a client, why they speak, 20 to 25% of communication is verbal.
Yes.
And then 75 to 80% is nonverbal. So I am watching more of the nonverbal than I'm watching the verbal, because that's where I'm getting my information from. And then I'm trying to correlate them or align what they are saying versus what they are displaying non-verbally. So throughout the years, I've noticed that there is a consistency, like dysfunctional consistency, that I see in how people handle their issues. Now, there are some of them that are so resilient that they actually seek, they sought the help.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. They admit that they don't know what to do, and they sought help right away. And there are some of them who don't know what they do, and they don't, what to do, but they don't want to seek the help. So overall, I would say 98% of the time that the dysfunctional trend it's almost the same. And it's unfortunate. However, though, there is hope if they can get themselves to actually implement whoever they are seeing or recommendations they are being presented with. So that's the issue. There's one issue of going to counseling or coming to see a counselor, and then there's also the other side where you actually have to implement what the counselor is recommending. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we have to, the alphabet. We cannot just have plan A and forget about the B through Z. We have the plans, it goes from A to Z. So whichever that doesn't work for you, and the way we present it when we do counseling is we don't do like one gloves, we tend to work with the client from where the client is. So to answer your question overall, we see the same problems.
Okay. So what are the resources or the steps or the strategies that you help people implement into their own lives to navigate these things?
Yes, one of the things I've discussed in my book, through the ages and stages of development, and one of the things I help to try to communicate or communicated in that book is the fact that we have to accept what we are feeling. We have to know that what we are feeling is okay. I asked a child that I saw yesterday who witnessed his mom kill his dad right in front of him. This happened last Friday. He was brought to me yesterday, and I was telling him, asking him, are you supposed to be having those feelings right now? Angry, sad? And he goes, no. I said, why not? Are you supposed to be feel happy, excited, and all those kind of positive feelings? He said yes. So my goal last night is to try to communicate to him that those bad feelings are also okay to have. Okay? But it's what you do with them. Okay? It's what you do with them. You can go do it the right way and handle it the right way, and you can also handle it the wrong way. And this boy was just calm. I mean, it's like a calm before the storm. And I noticed that right away, and I asked him more questions about what's going on in his mind right now. So he described how angry and some of the things he would want to do. But he knew that those things were not right. So that's where we started working on how he can manage it. So the first thing I do is to help them recognize that what they are having is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You are human. You have the right to have meltdowns. You have the right to cry it out. But I don't recommend that you unpack and live there. So, and when you do that, then you are living in that victim mentality. Guess what? Your anxiety, your depression, all those kinds of stuff will increase. So that's number one. And by understanding it, by accepting it, the person is understanding what's going on. So I know what I'm feeling right now, and that feeling is okay. Then the other stage is to try to refocus. How do you refocus? When we are facing a storm, we have like a tunnel vision where we believe that that storm is the most destructive thing in our lives. We don't think about anything else except that storm. And what I encourage my clients in that book is to refocus and remember there are other positive things going on in your lives too, not just that storm. I had something that hit me a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, and the state called me. I was so devastated. And you know what I did? I canceled the rest of my last 2 appointments and I went home because I wanted to get away from the outside noises and everything. So what I did was to just come home and lay in bed for about an hour to 2 hours, just to reprocess what's going on, just to calm myself down. And when after that 2 hours, then I called my friend to let her know what's going on. So that's one of the things I tried, to be doing, recognizing, hey, I am going through this right now. It's okay, but I need to refocus. I need to do something to help me calm down. Because at that particular moment, we can snap if care is not taken. So that's why I get away. Also, when we remember, it's so hard when you are in that storm, you're being thrown upside down. It's so hard to remember, oh my goodness, this is actually happening. Something is going right here. Something is going right there. It's so impossible, but we can do it, okay? We have our right brain. Our right brain contains all our emotions, and it goes straight to our heart. And we have our left brain. Our left brain contains the logic aspect of it. So we really have to activate that logic part of our brains in order to help us rethink and refocus and say, you know what, I can conquer this. If we could do that, to reminisce and remember the positive things, we can also think back and remember, like there were storms that we, each and every one of us, have faced from in our past. And guess what? We thought we were not going to survive them. Yeah. But guess what? We did. And we can do that again. So if we can be able to reminisce and remember the past and the present, the positive things, what we've conquered, where we've been, and then we can be able to develop a course of action and say, okay, first, this is happening. It's real. I'm human. I don't have a choice. Like you said at the beginning, where we are is where I'm supposed to be. I had an accident last the past 6 months, and I mistakenly hit somebody from the back. And that was the end of the story. I didn't go to my appointment, and the cop came and took our information, and I got angry right away. Then I realized I'm supposed to get angry. And then I realized it was meant to happen. That's my life story. So there is so much happening in our lives where we cannot afford to shut down. We have to calm ourselves down and figure out what's the next move. If you remember Finding Nemo, when the fish in the tank escaped, they escaped and jumped into the water in that bag, plastic bags. And what did they do? They say, yeah! Then one of them said, now what? Okay? That now what is the course of action that we have to develop in order to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this right now? I need to get out of here. I don't like the way I'm feeling, even though I'm human, but I need it to stop. And that's where we go. Those are the stages that I talked about in the book.
So I hear you really talking about when we accept how we feel, there's a permission that we need to give ourselves. There, whatever story's in the background, there's a reality to what we're feeling, and there's a reason we feel what we feel. But I love how you said, don't unpack and live there. You know, it's learning how to feel the feelings and work through them to get to the other side. Absolutely. And begin to understand. And honestly, we have complex belief systems and experiences from our childhood as well that are figuring into the intensity of our emotions.
Yes.
So for a lot of people, you know, we talked a little bit about, you know, midlife crisis, I think is essentially this. It's getting to a place in life, you don't like how you feel. You don't want to feel that way. You do feel hopeless because it's not where you wanted to be, right? It's all about not being able to cope with the fact that you are where you are right now.
Absolutely.
And now you're going to create a whole new reality, right? But you talked about balance, positive and negative. Where am I? Where do I want to be? And trying to understand and refocus, because I think resiliency is the process. You're actually, as I look through the steps you shared, I wrote them down. I see resiliency. I feel something. I stay in the feeling. I don't live there, but I give it enough space to get it.
Yes.
I start to understand it. Then I choose. There's where I choose, right? I'm going to choose to do this with my thoughts and my actions, or I'm going to choose this with my thoughts and my actions.
Yes.
It's kind of like there's a million choices that we get to make, right?
Absolutely. At that particular moment.
Yes. So when you're thinking about someone who may, let's put it in a midlife context, they are not happy.
Yes.
Their life is not where they expected it to be, which I think is more common than people realize.
Yes.
I think most people have a sense. Would you agree? Most people have a sense that this is not the way it was supposed to be.
Yes, absolutely. And that's living in denial. When, you know, a lot of things had happened to me recently, even my friends were asking, who are you? I said, I'm still the person I am. You know, and the funny thing, one of the comments I made to one of my friends is the fact that I wrote the book to save others. But the book is saving me instead. Because I realized that where I am, there are a lot of things, even though that I have an agency and I have clinicians working over me, and I wrote a book, everything is going great, but there are several things I'm lacking right now. And when I think about it, and I said, you know, not about it, about them. And I said to myself, you know what? It's crazy. It makes me crazy. It gets me depressed sometimes. In the morning, at times, I don't even want to get up and go to work. But I have to get up and go to work. And I cannot go to work and function well if I don't exercise. So I am trying now. It's been so much different lately. I've been trying to accept where I am. That's my story. I cannot change my story. You know, my story is my story, and only me can decide where the next chapter, the next step. Okay, so that's one of the things. The midlife crisis is something that a lot of people are struggling so much inside that they are even ashamed of it. It's like a taboo. Story. They don't even want to hear about it. They don't have, and it's living in denial. That, you know, grief. There's a process of grief, and the process of grief doesn't necessarily mean that when somebody dies, the person goes through that process. But it applies in all sense. I mean, in everything that we do. Midlife crisis, it applies there. So the first step is denial, the process of grief. And the second stage is angry, because we get angry. We live in denial. We don't believe we're 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old. And we start shopping for things that it's like, and the weird thing about it is the fact that when we are shopping, looking for plastic surgery, trying to cover ourselves, we can't even look at ourselves in the mirror. Even though we are trying to do all those physical things, it doesn't change what's going on the inside. And if the inside is not good or the inside is damaged, then the outside, regardless what you do, you're not gonna feel healthy. So, and that's where the denial, the more that we are understanding where we are, I thank God every day that I'm alive today. It was interesting because I went out on my birthday is May 18th, and I went out with two of my friends. They took me out. And when I got there, he and his sister, we were eating, and he asked me again, so how old are you? I said, I'm 50. He laughed so hard and said to me, you better enjoy this year because my dad died at age 49. And I said, oh my gosh. And I never thought about it. He wasn't being mean, but he was trying to communicate to me that his father didn't make it to age 50. Okay. And I paused for a minute and I said, you know what? I thank God that I'm alive today. There are so many things to be thanked for that can help us understand, you know what? I'm not 18 anymore. I can't do what I used to do at age 18. So we cannot live in denial. And the more we are living in denial, the worse it gets. Are we supposed to be angry? The second stage, of course we are supposed to be angry. Now, if I get angry and destroy the living room, then that's a bad thing. But if I'm feeling angry and say, you know what, I really need help. Okay, being able to resolve all life-related issues would determine how much healthy relationships we have. I look at healthy relationships as the prerequisites in order to conquer each stage of life. If we have a healthy relationship during this midlife crisis, we are definitely going to conquer that. We're not just going to conquer it because sometimes we cannot go, across that bridge alone. We have to go with a bunch of people who are healthy in a sense. So we can get angry all we want, but we cannot unpack and live there. Sometimes we get into the bargaining aspect of things too. We want to bargain, I will do this if my age changes to 18. Well, it's not going to change. It's going to stay the same. I will do this if this happens. Plastic surgery, then I will do this. I will start doing the blah, 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 blah. We start making unrealistic or setting unrealistic expectations. The bargaining is a process we have to go through, though. It's okay, but so far we don't overdo it. And then the next stage will be depression. We are going to feel depressed. My goodness, my career is almost over. I'm going to be retiring soon. What am I going to do? And blah, blah, blah. There are some people who really get stuck so bad that they lose themselves, So that depression, these stages will happen. However, it's being able to navigate through it. Even if you don't know how to swim and you are pushed in a pool, 8-foot deep pool, you still have the strength to kick and splash and trying to get out of there. The person is not going to be dead right away, but we have that energy. And regardless what stage we are, we still have that strength to kick and do whatever we need to do. So far, we are doing it healthily, in a healthy manner. Then the last stage is acceptance. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they are facing midlife crisis, they have difficulties accepting that stage. They don't want to accept it. Then guess what? They go back to the denial stage and come back down again, and they keep on going. And sometimes some of them get stuck. So the process of grief, we are going to go through it. We are human. We don't have a choice. That's part of our lives. But however, it's going through each stage with people who love you and with resources. Regardless where you are, there are so many ways to connect with people and resources now. There's computer, there's social media. I wouldn't suggest too much social media though, because I don't think that's a healthy way to connect. Now, there are some few friends that I will connect with. All our fingers are not equal. Everybody is different. So there are certain things that will go on with me, I'll call Tanya. There are certain things that will be going on with me, I'll call Marian. There are certain things that will be going on with me, I call Rick. So they have all different strengths that I sought when I'm facing a challenge. And we need that. We really need that to survive.
As we were talking through the steps, you talked about denial, then anger, then bargaining, then depression, then acceptance. Mm-hmm. I was thinking that there's a difference between acceptance and resignation.
Yes.
You don't want to get to the end of that process and be resigned.
Absolutely.
Because resignation is not acceptance. Resignation is a negative kind of self-defeating mindset, but people might not understand the difference. Acceptance is, I think, being at peace.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And resignation is just being like, well, here we are.
Yeah, giving up. And that's a victim mentality also. And I agree. Resignation is the fact that you are saying to yourself, I give up. I can't do this anymore, whatever. And then the person goes into depression or anxiety. By the time you know it, the person is popping a lot of pills. Okay? Something that doesn't, because I look at our society as a pill society right now. Every single thing somebody is going through, they have to look for a pill to resolve it. And guess what? It doesn't work. Why? Because the inside is not being dealt with appropriately. And when somebody decides to leave, resign, and say, you know what, that person starts thinking, the person starts living in a victim mentality. Mm-hmm. And the person has no way to survive, to escape. It's like being in a hole and you want to get out. And all of a sudden, you know what? Well, I'm not going to be screaming for help anymore. I'm just going to relax here. But, it doesn't help at all. So what we will recommend is the fact that accepting it, meaning that you are recognizing this is where I am. This is happening right now. This is real. It doesn't make me weak. Okay? Mm-hmm. However, what do I need to help me feel better? Should I go seek help outside? Should I talk to somebody? Should I start doing exercises? Should I start doing this or that? And the thing about it too is our diet is a concern nowadays. What we digest, what we eat. We're eating so much unhealthy food. So, and we keep on wondering, why do we look the way we look? And some of us even, some of them are older than I thought they are younger than I thought they, but because of every single thing they're going through and what we are digesting, we look like we're already 90. We're not taking good care of ourselves. And those things also should be the prerequisites also. In order to enjoy our lives, we need to live it the right way. If we're living it the wrong way, we're not going to be expecting miracles to be happening. So, but the inside of us is the most important part that we have to deal with, because nobody can help us there except us or ourselves.
It's interesting. As you're talking through this, I'm thinking there's a lot of perspective involved. Yes. I get to choose how I view the situation, and you mentioned unrealistic expectations. Mm-hmm. I think that acceptance piece, if we're stuck in unrealistic expectations, like by age 50, I should, and then you fill in the blank, right?
Yes.
Yes. We should. And I've been there, feeling that should. And I say, I tell people, quit shooting all over yourself. Just stop, because it's a habit that we have. And it keeps us from that perspective. It is a perspective to say, I should do that. Mm-hmm. And we should eat healthy. We should exercise. We should drink water. And those are not unhealthy things to should all over yourself for.
Absolutely.
But where we're at in life, the thing that we're talking about right now is, that trajectory, that success trajectory. People think I'm here and I'm going to get here and it's a straight line. But then there's that red,
yes,
squiggly line that's like, nope, that's not how it works.
Yes.
And I think one of the journeys I've had to take is really accepting the process of living life.
Yes.
I'm a doer and an achiever, and I like to get where I'm going. And I
Yes.
think for some people like myself, we get so externally focused, and I think this is where midlife crisis comes in.
Yes.
You get so externally focused that you've lost complete track of who you are as a person, what you're
Absolutely.
feeling on a day-to-day basis, how your relationships are fleshing out, where is our energy going?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about perspective. I can get unhappy in a heartbeat just by deciding to go, oh, that's not working, and that's not working, and that's not
Absolutely.
working, and that's not working.
Absolutely.
Or I can say, you know what? You're counseling through processes. Okay, I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's sit with that for a minute. But let's dig. Why aren't you happy, right? This is what you're talking about. It's that inner work, that cyclical thing that when things come up, we develop the skills
Yes.
to cycle through it and out of it, not like you said, unpacking and living somewhere in those 5 steps, or skipping acceptance and going back up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, even when you mention society is also they play a major role.
Yeah.
You know, how people are supposed to look like, what they're supposed to be, where they're supposed to be, they should or should not, all those kind of stuff. So we tend sometimes to forget what our core values are.
Our core values. I like
Our
that.
core values.
The internal me, not the external me.
Absolutely. And when we lose sight of those things, then we don't have any control anymore. So one of the things I recommend is also, the basic or the most common thing I'm trying to communicate is the fact that each person, each individual needs to understand him or herself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it could stem from the family of origin. We develop our morals and values from family. Then when we become a teenager or teenagers, then we start working on to develop our personal core values and other kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It starts shifting. Then we get in a relationship. Then it keeps on shifting and changing and making some adjustments. But the most important thing to surviving each struggle, midlife crisis, is understanding what our core values are. Because once we do, we are not going to be focusing on those external stuff because we are not going to be making them happy. We are going to be making us happy. And that's where, society unfortunately plays a lot of role that impacts the way we view ourselves. And that is sad.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that thought that a lot of us live our lives trying to please.
Yes.
Or satisfy or meet the standards. However, you look at it, it's an externally driven world. I mean, you talked about social media. Let's talk about a really dark hole for some people is that comparison game because everything looks a certain way.
Yes.
I mean, I can present anything I want externally, but if my internal game is off, at some point it's going to fall apart.
Yes.
And I think what I hear you saying is it is going to fall apart sometimes. And
Absolutely.
Our goal is to cycle through those levels of grief and come to a place where we take back our power instead of giving it to the situation, the person, the job, the marriage, whether it succeeds or fails. Because one of the things that I think it's important for us to remember is we barely handle our own stuff, and yet we think we can control someone else's stuff.
Absolutely. That happens a lot. And that's one of the reasons I mentioned about my different kinds of healthy friends that I have. Because if I know that Rick knows how to deal with this, I'm not going to go to Marian and I'm not going to go to Tanya because each of them have different gigs. Tanya is more like vocal. She is more blunt. I will tell her certain things and she's going to tell me, do not do it. Get away from that. That's the person she is. And I know why I contact her, because I know she's going to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Now, with Rick is more handy. And he looked at something, he tells me, okay, this is how you should do it, right? And it helps me. I am very, very careful who I speak to and who I go to, because I need the best result. I need the best outcome. Like I said, all our fingers are not equal. I have strengths in some areas, and I have, have weaknesses in some areas. And those weaknesses doesn't necessarily make me the weakest link or anything like that.
It doesn't make you bad because everyone has them, right?
Exactly, yes. I don't have any sense of direction at all, but I figured out 3 things I could do in order to implement to make sure that I get to where I'm going.
Yes.
So it's so good to have healthy relationships. And then when you know, okay, this is my theory also. My theory is my mind and my heart, they have to align. If they are not aligned, I am not going to go for something.
Right.
Okay. I have to make sure, you know how they say when you're going somewhere with your mind, you have to take your heart with you, or vice versa. I have to, and when I'm talking to Rick or when he's advising me, I have to make sure that both are aligned, because it's coming from the right source. So that's how I recognize who to go to, who to talk to, and how to manage issues, because I want to make sure that he is the one helping me, but I want to make sure that whatever he is presenting to me gonna be in my best interest.
Right, because what works for one person doesn't necessarily make it right or wrong.
Absolutely.
In the big picture.
Absolutely.
Because there's timing, there's situation, and we go to them for advice, not for command. Because we need to be very careful in our relationships, is what I'm hearing you say. So you talk about, be careful who you talk to. So boundaries, healthy kind of structures in your relationships.
Absolutely.
And we have to be careful what we say and what we listen to. Because I've had well-meaning people say things to me, and I know, like you said, that alignment piece, that is not the right choice. It's not an avoidance thing. It is developing the relationships well enough to know that people need to understand this is a give and take, not a parent-child thing. The healthiness of the relationship. It's an equal exchange, not a higher to a lower exchange.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And when I sick, sometimes I just want to vent. And the person I go to is Marian, because all she does is listen. All she does is to listen. And she reflects on what I'm saying. So I would feel heard and understood. So it's so much, that's why we have the healthy relationships that we have. And vice versa. Rick will come to me for certain things. Marianne will come to me for certain things, and Tanya will come, to me for certain things. I define the theory like when we are done using the restroom, what do? We wash our hands, but we don't go washing only the right hand, because it's impossible. We wash the 2 hands, which means we are washing, the right is washing the left, and the left is washing the right, and that's what healthy relationships supposed to look like. Okay, we are washing each other. And by doing so, we are living a balanced life. And we know for sure that we cannot handle this alone. And it's okay, we cannot handle it alone. It's just being able to connect or reconnect. Now, there's a difference though about some friends, so-called friends. I had a friend who hadn't spoken to me in 2 years. And all of a sudden, I get a message from her that she's going to kill herself after 2 years. And I was going to melt that like an ice that day. So I started probing to find out why she made that statement. But thankfully, we were able to resolve the situation. But I told her later on, I don't want you contacting me 2-3 years from out of nowhere and texting me you're going to kill yourself. That's not fair to me. So I kind of try to reestablish that relationship and have clearer boundaries as to how we're supposed to be helping each other. So there are some people who would want to use you, and there are some people who you would know who they are, and you would know who to go to when you are seeking help, and you would know who to help when that person comes to you. Healthy relationships are so important in everything we do, all aspects of life, so.
Wouldn't you agree, though, in order to have a healthy relationship with someone else, we need to have a healthy relationship with ourselves?
Absolutely.
So it's more of a thermometer. Like if all of your relationships, if your life is out of whack, if your relationships are out of whack, and you're feeling like you're spinning, like a midlife crisis, he's spinning, it's time, I think, to do some evaluation, to do some house check the corners for cobwebs, because something is out of order.
Absolutely.
So when you're talking about balance and alignment, I'm swinging all the way back. We're looking at symptoms, right?
Yes.
Midlife crisis, dissatisfaction, depression. There's a skill set of working backwards to asking yourself the right kinds of questions.
Yes.
So when you help someone process, do you have questions that you help them work through? Like one of my favorite questions, it's very simple. Is it true? Like when those lies and those things pop up in my head, or my daughter's, I say, okay, is that really true?
Yes, absolutely. And I do ask those questions too, because I've crossed paths with a lot of people, and what I do is first I reflect, I listen very, very carefully, attentively. Then I reflect on what they said. They would feel hard. Then I start asking questions to try to help them understand that they may be having skewed perception about certain things. I don't jump in and say, well, that's wrong, okay? Get over it. But I ask them questions based on what they brought up and process that with them. And they most of them come to understand that, why was I even thinking that way? And they understand that it's not doable, it's not real, it's not realistic or something like that. Then what I do is to help them change the former or the picture, or make some adjustments and say, okay, maybe are you supposed to be having those thoughts at that particular time? Of course you are supposed to be having those thoughts, because those are attached with uncomfortable feelings or whatever situation that is going on at that time. But hey, we also have a left brain, and it's functioning. But at that particular time, sometimes some people are incapable of activating that left side of their logical brain. And guess what they can do? Hey, Marian, I need help. Then, because sometimes when I am in that storm, I am not thinking right. I'm not connecting right. I'm not aligning my heart and my mind the right way. But somebody looking in will be able to do that. And that's what I tell my clients when they do come, and I make it clear to them, I'm not a super guy, okay? I have problems too. But we are all helping hands, and I'm here to help you process what you are going through so you can conquer that. And they see that too. So my goal is to be able to communicate and ask questions, leading questions that will get them to say, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be thinking about that, that way, or perceiving things that way anymore. This is the right, because counseling is a process. And if I don't ask those questions, I don't want to do the work. If I tell them the solutions right away, I am doing the work for them. And I don't want to do the work for them, because the goal of Enbridge, the mission, the vision of Enbridge is to see clients within 3 to 6 months. Then they won't come back. They will keep on doing. We empower them. But something else come down the road, then they will be able to handle it on their own. I don't want to be seeing clients like year in, year out, every single week. No, it's not how we are. What
That's
our
not the
market is.
culture. Codependency is not the culture at
Exactly.
Embridge.
That's the word, codependency. And we
Yes.
want it to be that culture. So we tend to, I fully agree with you, asking questions, leading questions based on what's being presented to you will help the speaker clarify what he or she is thinking. It's so important. And sometimes also I listen to them because they just want to get everything out of the open. Then about 40 minutes into session, then I give them some tips and they say they feel much better. Some of them don't even come back because that's what I want to see. It's not just about making money. I want to see my clients do well, succeed, and be able to solve those issues on their own. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, because it's self-help and it's very spiritual in a way. And I just want to help them become the best version of themselves. Regardless what they are going through, they can conquer it.
You know, it's very fascinating because there's different kinds of processing. Like I've done it on my own, and some people can be very self-motivated and self-starting. You don't get the perspective unless you're nowadays. I started out with books because there was no YouTube, there was no TED Talks, right? Back in the day when you went to the library.
Yes, I missed it.
So I would get books or I would listen to radio programs to get the tools that I needed. But I think some people, if they don't know where to start, I think counseling, finding the right counselor is a great place to start, because It's not meant to be a forever thing, but it is meant to be a step in the journey to help people understand, why am I so dissatisfied? Like, let's say in a midlife crisis, where I would literally take all the life I've lived and just chuck it and start over, you know? Maybe you put that on pause and go get some perspective.
Absolutely.
And maybe some things do need to change, but maybe they don't. Maybe I'm the one that needs to change, which is the tack that I have taken. And a lot of the time, it's a mental shift for me that makes all the difference. Not a situational shift. It's all up in my head, me seeing it differently, thinking differently about it, working through the emotion. Absolutely. And I think disappointment in midlife is a huge emotion. I have run across that many, many times. People are disappointed.
Yes, they are disappointed, and once they feel that way, they let it overwhelm them.
Yes.
And then if care is not taken, they crash, and by they don't even know they crashed. Okay. And it's like then it became like a crashed train that were never picked up. Okay. Picture that. A crashed train. And some people are able, like you said, they are able to problem solve. Now, that has so much. When it comes to electronics, I have no idea what I'm doing. When it comes to putting things together, I have no idea what I'm doing. I really get frustrated because I have ADHD. And when that kicks in, that's the end of it, because I kind of get impatient about it. And guess who I call? I contact Rick. That's his strength. Sometimes he let me do it while he watches me do it, so that I will know how to do it the next time. So, but the disappointment and the frustration, and are we supposed to feel disappointed and frustrated? Of course we are supposed to have all those feelings, but what are we going to do about it? You know, it's the problem where we, like you said, you resign, you accept it. Well, you're feeling sorry for yourself, when you also have those tools out there that you can reach out. And sometimes I even think that some people don't even want, they don't want that tool, or they don't need that. They don't really care about those tools to solve those issues. So I encourage, and some clients will come to me and they ask me, am I supposed to be feeling this way? They expect me to say, no, you're not. I tell them yes. And sometimes they're disappointed and look at me, what? I said, of course you're supposed to be feeling that way. And the other thing too, when we see clients, sometimes when they come to the office, and I describe it this way, I don't expect them to sell everything they have in their home to buy new furnitures or new pictures or new TVs or all those kind of stuff. No. However they are is how they are. But I tell them, hey, what I can recommend though is to move things around a little bit. Rearrange, make some adjustments. And so they are looking at me like, okay, what do you mean by that? In your head, you have to make some rearranging. You have to make some adjustments. Maybe you were doing so well in this area, and now you are not doing so well in that area. So, but what are you going to do now in order for you to do as well as possible, or however you can put that? We cannot resign. We cannot stay disappointed. We cannot refuse to accept where we are or what we are facing, because that's a death sentence, emotional death sentence.
The thing about what you're saying as it being an emotional death sentence is we end up being our own worst enemy.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
If we don't do the inside work, if we don't rearrange our thoughts, if we don't let go of our pet thoughts, our pet stories, the things that justify our bad behavior.
Yes.
Personal responsibility begins to come into play at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We just have to give ourselves a break. We just have to give ourselves some credit. I wish that sometimes I cry. Why do I cry? I cry by the fact that, my gosh, I've seen some people that I knew that could handle this. And I keep on wondering why can't they? Why couldn't they? And the thing about life is it strikes everybody, anybody, regardless how rich or how poor or how educated or anything. It hits everybody. And I am trying so hard to live by what I said in my book, Embracing Life. It's helping me feel better. I'm not as antsy like I used to be. I'm not as frustrated like I used to be. And for some reason, I was driving to an appointment to see my doctor last week. And for some reason, I took the wrong exit. So I got there 15 minutes, 20 minutes late. I said, oh my gosh. And I thought about it. I said, maybe I took the wrong exit for a reason. What if I had taken the right exit and got into a car accident and died? And what if something was being prevented from happening to me at that particular time, that particular moment? So I'm rethinking the way I think about things and trying to find out, why is this happening? Like you said earlier, where are the sources? Where is it coming from? There's an approach that I use in counseling called A-B-C model. The A is the antecedent. It's like the origin, where the source, where the issue is coming from. The B is the behavior. And guess what? The C is the consequences. So there are two things happening. Something is happening to us. Sometimes we don't know where that is coming from. And guess what? It's going to manifest in our behaviors. The way we react, the way we manage it. And by the time you know if somebody is drinking, somebody got to get a DUI, a lot of bad things happen. And guess what? The person faces consequences. And that's a negative consequences. And that's why I said in the book that if you are going through a storm, if you were capable of making wrong decisions, you are also capable of making the right decisions, regardless if you know where the source of the issue is coming from. But for me to understand clients, now, if you make good, or take good steps, effective steps, then the consequences will be positive. If you don't and decide to do it the wrong way, or wrong approaches, then the consequences will be negative. And what people will be seeing is the behavior. But when they come to counseling, like you said, I ask leading questions to find out if their perception was skewed, or whatever they are thinking, what are they thinking, what's going on in there. And sometimes they don't understand. Then I help them go back to identify where the problem is coming from. Because if we're not able to identify where the problem is coming from, I cannot help that client. So I asked a lot of questions at the beginning. The first 4 weeks of counseling is question. But I don't do it as in written questions. It's based on what they are bringing up to me. I follow them. I go down that road with them. I have so much patience to do that because I need to find out where the antecedent, where the origin is coming from. Then the behavior can change. So if they know that the fact that they are taking blood pressure medication and that there's been hijacking their asthma every single night, I ask all medical questions. When was the last time they had their physical, full-blown physical? And what was the result? Ask questions like that. Thyroid issues. The weird thing about thyroid issues is the fact that and it's medical. So if somebody is not taking care of his or her thyroid issues, or not on medication for that, or not doing what he or she's supposed to be doing medically, that thyroid symptoms would appear like bipolar symptoms. Mm-hmm. So all those questions I asked to find out, okay, where is this coming from? I need to understand that. By the time you know it, they were able to figure those things out themselves. Then we start working on acceptance. Okay, what are we gonna do? What does acceptance look like? This acceptance is the toughest stage. And I love the point you made. So far, we're gonna accept and not resign. I said, okay, that's it. I'm not gonna do anything else. No. We have to implement a very healthy course of action in order to be able to move away from that situation. So that's the way I view the ABC model, and I use it in every single session.
So as we round out our time, there's so much great information that we've talked about, the levels of grief, the really self-understanding piece, getting to the place where we're making sure that our voice is our voice and not somebody else's voice running through our heads.
Yes.
But because we've talked about so many things, and the people, my tribe listening, are probably all at different stages of this. Maybe they are having a midlife crisis. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're feeling disappointed. Probably more often than not, that's what I'm finding people feel. What 3 steps, strategies, or resources would you give to someone to help them navigate just the reality that life doesn't always go the way we want it to, and we find ourselves not where we expect it to be?
Absolutely. The 3 resources I will give them are very simple. 1, they should recognize that they are human and all the feelings that they are having are okay. That's number 1. Accept the fact they are human and the feelings they are having are okay. Number 2, they have to accept those feelings that they are having at that particular moment. And number 3, they have to establish a course of action in order to resolve that particular issue. Like you said, it doesn't matter where or what issue or what kind of the issue that the person is having. They should remember that they have the right to cry it out, have meltdowns, but they cannot unpack and live there.
Cannot unpack and live there. I absolutely love that visual because it is a part of the journey, but it's not the destination, right?
Absolutely.
It's a stop on the way. You're not supposed to stay there in that bus stop. You got to keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Dr. Emeka, I want to thank you so much for coming today and sharing your passion, your heart, and your mission, and such fabulous resources and conversations, because the strategies you shared could literally change the course of someone's life.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Right.
So today I've been talking to Dr. Emeka Anyiam, and he is the author of Embracing Life, Surviving the Struggle by Learning to Embrace the Experience. If you want to know more about Dr. Emeka, please head to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 118. I will have links to his book, to him. You can check out his coaching. You can check him out on the social media. It'll all be there for you. And while you're at my website, please leave your name and email address. Join my tribe. I have a gift for you. And as always, when you listen to these conversations, please take the time to share them with someone who needs them. These conversations are meant to go out and help change lives. We can help each other by sharing good and healthy and uplifting information. And remember, it's okay to feel what you feel. Work through it. Just don't unpack and live there, my friends. Get the resources you need to find yourself through to the other side, to a healthy form of acceptance. We are so grateful that you took the time to listen to this today, and I want to thank you for being a part of my tribe. I look forward to sharing more and more life-giving conversations with you in the future. Again, have a wonderful week, my friends. Take care. Bye-bye.